Is a Lumbee. You know, we refer to ourselves as Lums.
He had his preconceived notion when he came to Robeson County. And finally, I said, I just got tired of it. And I told him, I said, look, we know who we are. You know, we know. We have always known. Y'all are the ones who are trying to identify something. This Heather Locklear thing, Heather Locklear ain't no Lum. I don't care what nobody says. I don't care if her granddad or great granddaddy or what it was came from here. She's never lived as a Lum.
I want to play this one part where there's a student talking about who does he see are Lumbee, who counts. I'm Danielle Romero. Thank you so much for being with me here on my channel where we talk about American identity and family stories. And I'm so excited to bring my first video about the Lumbee. And I'm not really sure how I found out about the Lumbee tribe, but when I started uploading my DNA to GEDmatch, because that's like kind of the graduation ceremony after taking a DNA test, is taking the raw DNA and putting it on GEDmatch. I was able to connect with a lot of folks in both the Melungeon community and the Lumbee community and have connections with my DNA, matching with them. And I don't know how much we'll get into on this video about the overlap between those two communities, but it just kind of sparked my interest. And I was like, well, who are the Lumbee? I'm definitely far enough removed that I don't have any cultural ties to them. I don't know exactly even how I'm connected to them, but it was cool to see that genetic link there. So imagine being a part of a community that has existed for centuries, yet constantly having to prove your identity to a society who refuses to see. That's the story of a lot of small groups and not so small groups here in the United States, but this is the reality for the Lumbee Indians of North Carolina. Wendy Moore Ledwell, a Lumbee Indian, poignantly expressed the struggle. And she said, quote, "In the decades past, I have yearned for your acceptance, neither red nor white willing to give. Yet I know within my being of my significance to this land. Abandoned, I must cling to my self-recognition as my salvation." And what is it about the Lumbee's story that has led a century-long battle for recognition? So the Lumbee tribe comprised, at least what I saw, about 40,000 members at this point, traces its roots back to the mysterious lost colony of Sir Walter Raleigh and several Native American tribes. They have a profound historical lineage going back to the very beginning of this nation, before this nation was America. But they face significant discrimination due to, in part, their physical appearances, which many perceive as not fitting with the traditional image of what a Native American is. Which, just as an aside, is super bizarre to me because when we're talking about indigenous people, I mean, there's indigenous people on every continent, right? But let's just talk about the Americas for now. So let's think about indigenous people who are at the highest, most northern point of Canada, and indigenous people who are down deep in Mexico. Are they going to look identical? No, of course not. Like there's diversity even in diversity, right? But why does the appearance hold so much power over their recognition? And how has that perception shaped their journey for federal acknowledgement? So for over 100 years, the Lumbee have sought federal recognition, only to be met with a lot of different reasons for denial. Part of it is their origins, their physical features, and their lack of traditional reservation have all been used against them. But in 1956, Congress reorganized the tribe, but didn't fully acknowledge them, citing their perceived lack of, quote, Indianness, this mysterious thing of like, can't quite put our finger on it. So this partial recognition placed the Lumbee in purgatory, a perpetual state of limbo, caught in between being recognized in name by the federal government, but not in substance. So let's talk about the concept of Indianness. I have done a couple of videos with friends and family members and distant cousins about this concept of who counts as Native American. What does that mean? The concept of Indianness, there's a spectrum there. We have the cultural, spiritual, heritage, communal values, and then legal definitions. What does this mean to the United States of America legally, nation to nation? And I want to bring in some voices from the Lumbee Nation I found from some older documentaries and let them speak for themselves. It's called Indian by Birth, the Lumbee Dialect, and it's old. I'll have to check. I think it came out in like the 80s. You can kind of tell by the way it looks once we get started.
Formally recognized by the state of North Carolina, the Lumbee tribe has yet to receive full recognition from the United States government. The cloudy history of Robeson County raises many questions about the influences that contributed to Lumbee culture, although these questions are typically of more concern to outside scholars than to the Indians of Robeson County themselves.
We had a long conversation, and we were talking and talking. I thought the guy was pretty cool, I was giving him credit for being an intellect there for a few minutes till he turned out to be an idiot, and he was like, going to insist, no matter what I would say, he was trying to, paraphrase it into what he wanted to say. He had his preconceived notion when he came to Robeson County. And finally, I just got tired of it. And I told him, I said, look, we know who we are. We know. We have always known. Y'all are the ones who are trying to identify something.
Americans in general have a stereotype of Lumbees, as they do of Native Americans. And Americans generally expect Native Americans all to look the same way and to act the same way like we do with all other human beings, human groups. And it just doesn't hold up. None of the categories will work. If there were a surviving whole traditional language here, it would be an easier case to make, especially to other Native groups who do have surviving traditional languages. It would be an easier case to make for Lumbees being recognized fully by the federal government.
Well, the Lumbees have lost whatever tribal language they once had, but I still think that we have an identifying way of speaking that makes us different from any other group in the area.
Like an omen of something bad that's going to happen, or a sign of death. You can see a totem or you can hear a totem.
Yeah, November. What's that? Yeah, that's when you have a cold snap in July. That's November.
Mommy. Not familiar with that.
Mama can try to act like their mama.
Now, people around here, non-Indians around here, they're used to it. Their ancestors are part of the reason our ancestors thought the way we did. But you get anywhere away from this immediate area, people, they know it's different. They know it's something they've never heard before, and a lot of times they're fascinated by it because it's something different.
Little butter Brian, eating laid back now. What do you eat? Chicken and rice and chicken.
All right, and I want to play this one part where there's a student talking about who does he see are Lumbee, who counts as Lumbee. And I'll hop back a little bit here.
Lum is a Lumbee. We refer to ourselves as Lums.
For me to be able to call somebody Lumbee, it'll be by having Lumbee blood in them, by having to be knowing about their culture, they have to know about their ancestors, but for like people in the outside world that know nothing about their culture. I mean, they call everybody Lumbee. There is Lumbee. They got blood. Yeah. They know nothing about their culture. That's not about answer. Me, really, they are Native American, but for me, I really can't consider them Native American if they need them to learn about the culture.
If you maintain your community ties and stuff, if it's just coming home at Christmas and from Mother's Day and Lumbee homecoming and stuff like that, it's got to be some kind of way. I mean, this Heather Locklear thing, Heather Locklear ain't no Lum. I don't care what nobody says. I don't care if her granddad or great granddaddy or what it was came from here. She's never lived as a Lum. She's never been involved in this community. She's never certainly had to experience the things that are just going to be part of your life experience if you're alone,
So I just thought this was super interesting because this is kind of what I think ends up happening is that there are multiple levels of identification in groups. We have on one level overarching Lumbee looking to get that federal recognition that they've been fighting for over 100 years. But even kind of coming down past that, people saying, well, if you didn't grow up in the culture, if you only come home for Christmas, if you're not really connected, like he's using Heather Locklear. Locklear is a Lumbee last name. I think it's also a Melungeon last name. Two, she doesn't count because she hasn't lived this life. And this is where that tension comes in, because there are a lot of us who didn't grow up with the knowledge of their ancestry, didn't even know where their family came from. And some people don't care. I mean, I think if you don't care, you're probably not hanging with me on my channel. Like, I think if you're on here, you do care. And I mean, I do. And, I have gone to great lengths to reconnect with as much as I can possibly reconnect with in Louisiana and even in Italy, trying to do that. And it's not easy. I could see where he's coming from. I understand where he's coming from. There is this sense of like, you're okay, in the community, you're an outsider to the community. But as someone who is most definitely an outsider in a lot of or all of my ancestry family communities, it is hard to hear, because there are so often, for so many people, they may not have had a choice, and maybe that's how it is for your family, where you didn't have a choice. And so that's where this stuff gets really muddy. And I want to continue to research the Lumbee, but I wanted to just bring this a little bit to you. And I usually try to keep my videos, like 10, 15 minutes, not too long. I know for me, like sometimes I'll see a video on YouTube I want to watch and it's like 2 hours long. I'm like, nah, like I just don't have 2 hours. So I'd love to break this up into bite-sized pieces. So let me know what angle on Lumbee we should cover next. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Do you have connections to this community? What do you think about what they're saying? Let me know what you think. I will leave a playlist for the other Redbone Melungeon videos I've done below, because I think they intersect in a lot of places. Otherwise, we'll talk soon.